Morning at Becky's house. The dining table is Nick's work from home space. Trixie's found the basket of washing and made a nest in it. That's clean washing, by the way, so I'm gonna have to rewash that towel. Gandalf's hanging out, and I am trying to wake up and get myself ready, so a nice morning cup of tea is a good way to start. In my Care Bears mug, of course. And I'm really sensitive to caffeine, so I have to have decaf everything, including black tea. Add a splash of milk, just because I don't really like drinking tea black, and contemplate what I'm going to do today. No sugar in my tea, because I'm sweet enough. I'm sitting at my desk with a blank piece of paper. This is the spare piece that I had when I made my accordion sketchbook, and I was thinking about using it up, and I had the idea that I might actually grab my Dylusions inks and make a bit of a swatch chart, but then I thought I could also then turn them into a Lightfastness test, because I've had a few people asking me about them. Are they Lightfast? I have no idea. So why don't I make up 3 charts and we can test out how Lightfast they are. So I'll cut these bits of paper up and we'll get right into it. So I have 12 inks to put into a chart. Do I go 4 across and 3 down, or 3 across and 4 down? These questions are highly important. I mean, I could just spray them directly on there without putting them into boxes, but I just like to be neat, and especially because I'm actually showing you these, I figured it's probably better to put them in some sort of nice order. I'm probably going to go 3 down and 4 across, I think. So I'm just going to rule them all together and then cut them up later, because that will be much faster. Now I could do this with ink straight away because I'm going to rule it with pen, but I always like to do a pencil line first, just in case I make a mess, because it has been known to happen that I mismeasure something and then have to redo it, which is super annoying. So look at that, I can't even rule a straight line today. So I'm having to voice over most of this because I was ruling lines to make these little charts, and I was chatting along, and then I'd forget to talk, and so there's these huge blank spaces of no talking, and it's, pretty disastrous. I'm very tired. I blame it entirely on Inktober. I remember now why I haven't done it for the past couple of years, because it's really stressful and so time consuming. I have just completely lost my schedule this month, and it's been really difficult catching up on it. Because the Inktober drawings take up so much time, it's not leaving a great deal of time to do anything else. But I'll stop whinging about it now, because it's entirely of my own making. I'm not too sure I'm going to do this again next year though. I think one Inktober is enough for my channel for quite a while. And I'm still preparing my second video for the end of October. I'm determined to finish it. In case you haven't seen it, I've already got part 1 out, which is days 1 to 16, and I just need to do 17 to 31. So don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see that. So now I have my phone out using the calculator, because I could not for the life of me think what 18 divided by 4 is. Turns out it's 4.5, and that's actually a really easy measurement. So because each of my squares measured out at 18 by 18 centimeters, I have 3 lines going down at 6 centimeters each, and then I will have 4 lines going across at 4.5 centimeters each. I'm so pedantic when it comes to measuring charts. I'm not like this normally in most parts of my life. Usually I'm really just whatever, but for some reason when I get into the studio I have to have measurements exactly right, otherwise I get really annoyed. But it's also the aesthetic look of it. I find it really bothersome when I see a chart and not all of the squares are the same size. So I'd rather just spend a bit of extra time getting it right, and then I'll be happy with the final result. Doesn't always work, because usually once I get to the swatching part I make a mess anyway, but at least I get to start out with nice neat squares. And then very excitingly, I ruled out all of my lines, and I still didn't get them right. I had the ones at the end slightly wonky anyway, after all of my efforts. Never mind, I got this done eventually. I pulled out one of my trusty Uniball Eye rollerball pens, and this one's a little bit thicker. It's 0.7 I think. And I really like to use these pens for ruling lines because the ink flows smoothly and easily. They don't snag on paper like fine liners tend to do, and they're much hardier for that. And also the ink is waterproof, so that is not going to run at all once it is dry. and they are 100% waterproof. I've never had issues with these pens. They're easy to find, at least in Australia. I usually get them in Officeworks, but I think I even bought these ones from Costco. They have the grey ones in a large pack, and 1 year I bought them and I'm still going through them, so they last ages. And they're a good value too. So I'll just speed this up again because I'm pretty sure we all know how to rule lines. Once I was done ruling out the lines, I cut the sheets up into 3 squares, and finally here are all of my inks that I'm going to be swatching today and using for my tests. Then I filled out all of the charts the same, putting the colours into an order, putting all their names down, and you can see I've got dark folio, ambient light and full sun. Now I know a lot of Lightfast tests just usually do light and dark, so you have one in this window with the full sun hitting it, and then the other one goes somewhere that's in the dark, away from light. I like to have a third one, which is ambient light, and that's the light that you have in your house, which isn't direct sunlight, but obviously is daylight, because we live half in daylight, and it is the most realistic test of all 3 of them, because most people don't hang their artworks in full sunlight. But I want to have those 2 extremes where I have that one in the bright sunlight. We're in Australia, it's coming into summer. Hopefully we'll get some more sun than what we've been having lately. So I think it's a much more thorough test to then compare extreme sunlight with regular daylight in your house, which is how most paintings would be hanging, and then darkness where it's not getting any light on it. So my idea was to spray the inks onto each swatch card and use little bits of paper to act as shields, like I did in that rhododendron artwork that I did recently. That worked pretty well then, but as we will see very shortly, it was not such a great idea for this. So you'll see I recorded this on the 14th of October, and I wasn't sure when this was actually going to go up, so a week or 2 later? But here's my first attempt at making one of these swatch cards. Kind of worked okay. I've got my bit of paper under there as a splash guard as well, so my desk doesn't get covered in it. And it was going alright here, but what you maybe can't see very well is that that ink sprayed underneath my guards despite my best efforts. And on the yellow one, the lemon zest, there are droplets of pink, and immediately when I sprayed you could see that pink reactivating underneath it. So now I have all this orange contaminating the lemon zest, and what a total disaster. Can you see on the pomegranate seed and the tangerine dream there are also sprays of purple crushed grape, so that's just going to mess with those, and I just had to redo this entire chart. In the end I've had to take the spray off and just take the ink out of the bottle itself and use it more just like I would any other water-based medium. So I will redo this chart and start again. Thankfully I had 1 piece left, because that long sheet fit 4 pieces for my accordion book and I'd only used 3 of them. So I did that a bit later off camera, but in the meantime I started this whole thing again using the ambient light one to film, and I just repeated the process for the full sun and the redrawn dark folio. I was a lot more successful this time around, although with my poor Inktober-addled brain it did not even occur to me that I could put the inks out into a separate palette and then picked up the ink from that. That would have been so much easier than what I was doing here. In the end I grabbed out a pipette and was dripping the ink onto the paper because that was a lot easier to get a bunch of ink at the same time and just paint it out like that. So it worked out eventually, but wasn't the most efficient way to do it. Oh well, moving on. So you can see already how incredibly bright these colours are. The crushed grape is a little bit different to the others though. It splits out into more than one colour. You can see separation in blue and pink with it, whereas all the others remain a very flat, uniform colour, so I don't know what the crushed grape has in it to make it different, unless it's just my particular one. But the lemon zest and cut grass are very bright, and then that vibrant turquoise is so pretty. I love that one very much. Going into slate grey, It's a bit flat, and I may not have picked this one at any other time, but I was just going off the sale items, and whichever ones I had on clearance are the ones I picked up. So it just ended up being kind of a mishmash of colours, although I did manage to get a pretty good range over the spectrum in the end. I really like the pomegranate seed, and the postbox red is very much a blood colour. And I did alternate the squares because I didn't want the colours to run into each other, and I gave the first lot quite a lot of time to dry so that when I went in with the second bunch it wouldn't just run everywhere. That Tangerine Dream is a really intense orange, I like it very much. And then the Fresh Lime is a lighter yellower green, so the cut grass and the lime go quite well together. And then we've got the London Blue, which is pretty much a phthalo blue, I would say. It's lovely and vibrant anyway. And then the last one I have is Balmy Night, which is what I'd consider a Payne's Grey. You can see that bluey, greeny undertone, and I really like it. I think it's a lovely colour. So overall, I am happy with the colour palette I have. And here are all three charts once all of the colours have dried. You can see some of them have dried a little bit streaky, so they're not all exactly the same, but I think it will be close enough for the test. So my theory is that they are not going to be very light fast, but I just really want to know how non-light fast they are, or are they going to surprise me over time? So I'll put them in their places. This one's going into the dark folio, and I will zip that up. No light's going to touch it for the duration of this test. All nice and snug in there. Next up is Full Sun, and I'm going to be putting it into the kitchenette window because most of the day sun will hit this window, and in summertime it gets really hot, so I usually have to put an awning down, but I might leave it up this year for science purposes. You can see I've got a couple of other light fast tests in the window as well, and sometime next year I'll be revealing these ones as well. So it's kind of a work in progress, and I will probably do a series of videos. And here's the third and final one, the Ambient Light, with that rather funny looking crushed grape. It's just done a very strange colour shift on this particular one. Never mind, I'm just going to leave it as it is. This is hanging on the wardrobe door in my office. It gets a lot of natural light, but no direct sunlight because the sun can't shine in quite that far. So you can see it's a standard picture hanging in a room with a window where the sun does shine in a little bit, but it diffuses out into ambient natural light. And now we wait. I might look at it at 6 months, or I might even wait an entire year. I'm not too sure yet, but sometime in 2022 I plan to do a follow-up video showing if there are any changes to these inks and whether or not they can be used in art, or if indeed they should just stay in a book. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a bit of a strange video for me. I had planned to do a bunch of things, but actually this video's ended up being quite long on its own, so I think it's going to be fine without the addition of a few other things I plan, and I'll do those in a different video. So I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all again in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!